Hey everybody, Thacia here with Legacy of Light in conjunction with One Love Wellness Center here in Menasha, Wisconsin, coming to you for my 24th day of my 365 days from my heart to yours. And today I wanted to talk about following where your thoughts are coming from instead of following where they're going to. I was listening to a talk by Muji Baba, and it made a lot of sense to me. Because if we follow where they're coming from, we can get to the actual root of the problem or issue or whatever, and then decide what we want to do with it. If we're just always following where this thought is going to, it is, basically putting our feelings on somebody else. The way that we're feeling, the way that we're reacting to a situation. And, as I continue to follow doing this, I continue to find out that really the issue is my issue. And this is just, the circumstance that comes up is a trigger for me to find out what the issue really is with me. And it's not that person. They're just, as I said, they're triggering you. So one of the things that happened in the past 2 days is in my transition in this, from the relationship that I was in, he was partially helping me financially, and towards the end, there was friction, and there's, some things that, obviously didn't go the way I wanted to. So I had to skip my car payment last month. And I called them, which was also a huge step for me, because years ago I used to just let it go and then I'd figure it out later. But I called them and said, I'd make up last month's payment over the next couple of months. And they were fine with that, and then it was it's going to make my credit be bad. But I was like, I would rather have bad credit than be in a space that I didn't want to be. So I was okay with it, and whatever, went on. I went to make my payment today, and I totally forgot. And they were like, oh, well, this covers last month, and then you can just, make your next payments. And I was like, what? I had totally let that, slip. I'd forgotten about it, completely, that I had set up the whole thing. So at first I was like, oh my God, what is going to happen? I don't know, what I'm going to do. And I do have the extra money, but then I also started getting mad at him and putting it on him, going over these stories, and in my head, this movie reel of how awful a person is he to make me go through this, and this just shows he doesn't care. And I had to stop that and say, no, I'm not going to follow this story where it's going. I'm not following that thought, because it's not about that thought. And so I did an exercise that I often do with myself, and it's just the why. So I will say the question, why am I mad at him? And then I will answer it, and then I just keep asking why. And sometimes I do it out loud, and sometimes I do it to my, in my head, but till I actually get down to the root of the problem. And the root of the problem was me, and that I was mad at myself. I was disappointed in myself because I was yet again put myself in a position where I had to count on somebody I knew I couldn't count on, kind of thing. But also that I needed to still forgive myself for that. And had this not occurred, like I would still hold on to that and be angry with myself. And if I didn't follow where the thought was coming from, I would still be holding on to that, like resentment for myself. And so by doing that exercise, and instead of following where the thoughts were going to and following where they were coming from, I found out what it was coming from, and I'm able to work on healing that. And, you know, forgiving myself and loving myself and saying it's okay. Because in the end, like this one missed car payment of 3 years is not really that horrible. And to be honest, like it's not gonna make my credit that much worse than it already is. And it's okay, because I know where I'm at. I know where I can go. And you know, the crazy part is that I'm in a space now where I am manifesting because I let that go. I let that need to have that control over that situation, and just didn't want to be in that situation. And I do have money to make the extra payments, and everything is going to be fine. But had I stayed in that space and stayed in that anger against him, that would have only hurt me and kept me in that space. And, you know, playing my story, playing the real and playing the victim. Oh, me, like, why would this person do it? Well, as I said before, everything that is in your life has your permission to be there. And it is all for our positive growth. So when we take the time to step back and think about the situations, when we start, you know, having these negative reels playing in our head, and instead of following, you know, this thought to where it was going to, like to the anger and frustration and this is you, this is you, this is you, really what it was when I followed where it was coming from was me. And that's where we need to make the change, is ourselves and our perceptions and the things that we feel. And, you know, some of these patterns were created to protect us. And, you know, in blending these things, you know, like I talked about yesterday with the darkness and like integrating into your body, it's like the ego and the spirit are not just like we want to separate them and keep them apart. We want to integrate them into one, because it's all you. Everything is you. The ego's you, the spirit's you, this, you know, this body, it is all you. And the universe is all you. But in order to become this whole, to become this one, we have to let the ego know that we love it and we thank you for these patterns that you created, that you wanted to keep me safe. You wanted to help me, and this is the only way you knew how. And just come to that, you know, to that integration point where you start to follow where these thoughts are coming from and get to the root of them so that you can say, thank you. I don't need you anymore. I've got this. And, you know, you can work on that forgiveness. You can work on letting it go while you're integrating it. You're letting go your attachment to the emotions. And when you do that, you can look back at these stories, these circumstances, these things that happen, and it doesn't incite, like anger or frustration or, some of these lower vibrational thoughts. Because you've actually dealt with it and you can look at it positively and hold love for yourself, for not only being able to notice that thing, but for being able to let it go and for being able to love it. And the greatest forgiveness that we have is for ourselves. And so when you find yourself, projecting onto other people, and that is through everything, like, if you're frustrated with somebody, just take a minute, as soon as you can, to think about, well, why am I actually thinking this? Why am I actually frustrated with this person? Why am I actually starting to play this reel in my head? Why am I playing the victim? Where is it coming from? And follow that to the root of that issue. And it's such a relief. It's such a release to be able to just say, okay, and forgive yourself. And, for past and whatever, forgive yourself for having those thoughts against that person. Because all of our thoughts are creating our reality. But when we become aware of them and we can change that pattern, it doesn't keep going. It doesn't keep happening. And you will notice it's easier to switch. It will be easier to get to the root of the problems when you start, practicing this and following them to where it's going. You'll quickly, come to that realization, because it didn't, it was all of maybe a 5-minute conversation with myself of the whys. Well, why, and then you answer why. Well, what do you, and why that? Well, why that? Till I was like, oh, yeah, I'm disappointed and angry with myself. So, and it makes you aware that you are responsible for everything in your existence. And that, you're responsible. And it takes the blame off of others, because it's not them. It's things that you've created these patterns for. And this is only going to help you integrate, your ego with your spirit, or however you want to say it, your monkey mind, is to integrate all these things into one. And that you aren't separate. And that oneness brings a whole nother oneness of everything around you. Because each of us is the creator of our world, of our reality. So you can choose to see the reality that you've created, and you can choose to feel the reality of all that you are, and make the choice to take responsibility for who you are and what you want to share with this world. So, thank you guys. If you liked this video and it resonated with you and you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. And also in the section about the video is other ways that you can get a hold of me if you're looking to get a hold of me. And just know that you are all eternally adored and loved. And I love you. And I appreciate each one of you. And I am grateful that we've chosen each of our lives. We've chosen to be who we are, and we're choosing everything in our reality. So, I love you, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Thanks.